WNST, and that was just the pre-gaming for the Jim Comey speech in D.C. on Thursday. But the Orioles were falling behind and trying to catch up against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and lo and behold, Trey Mancini boom them back into this thing and a sweep over the Pirates. Where was that in 1979? But it gave me an opportunity to at least watch the fourth quarter of Game 3, and if there was ever a chance for the Cleveland Cavaliers to climb back into this thing on the backs of their fans out in the land of the Cleve, or as they say, the land. But alas, it was not to be. The Golden State Warriors look like they're going to be having a little parade out in the Bay Area early next week. This guy covers the NBA and does some Twitter stuff and some sports work at Bleacher Report out of New York, but he is from the fighting city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the city of brotherly love. We welcome Adam Lefkoe on for his debut here at WNST. His name is spelled Lefkoe. You can find him out on Twitter as well as at Bleacher Report. He also hosts a podcast called Sims and Lefkoe. That's Sims with two M's like Phil and Chris. We welcome Adam Lefkoe on. What's going on, man? You're from Philly. You don't know what these championships taste like, right?
No, I do not. I know that we have like a 20-year plan to try and get there to be a part of one of these things. I know that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid went last on Wednesday night to check it out and see what it could possibly be like. But, man, I'm upset, Nestor. I thought Game 3 was the one. I thought that was the one that was going to give us a series, and now it was just further proof that Kevin Durant is going to be lifting that MVP trophy and that LeBron James is going to take flack for the entire offseason.
I'm almost astonished at the Durant thing and how, it's kind of worked out. I mean, he got injured kind of famously against the Wizards and went down for a period of time. Last year it was Curry in the playoffs. But this, I don't want to say emergence of Durant because, I mean, for crying out loud, he was what he was in Oklahoma City. But as an emerging player and an MVP, I've always thought of Curry as being the guy on that team. And when it's not him, it's Clay. When it's not him, it's they're so loaded. I don't think anybody should be shocked that Golden State's still pissed a year later, added Durant, and that Cleveland's kind of getting steamrolled right now.
I was thinking on Wednesday night when I was watching the game, remember when the Cavaliers had their championship party at LeBron's house, and it was set up with all of this, 3-1 stuff everywhere, and the Warriors were getting upset? And then I thought about last week when that Draymond Green comment came out where he said that he's still angry about 3-1. The fact that we doubted the motivation of the Warriors, that they could take this lightly, is crazy. Now, Kevin Durant, I'm going to be very honest. It has annoyed me to no end, everyone saying that he is a cheater and a whiner and someone that doesn't want competition. The fact that he has come out and clearly been the number one option on the Warriors shows that he is not just joining a 73-9 team to put them over the top. He is the guy leading the 73-9 team. I say this all the time. If me and you, Nestor, were out playing pickup basketball, and we were playing up against a team that was unbelievable, and they were smoking everybody, and we're trying to get a run, and we can't win, and one of their guys leaves, and they say, hey, Nestor, you want to join the squad? And you look at me, and I know that if you go on that team, you're going to get 4 or 5 games in, which is what we all want when we play. I'm not going to be upset at you, man. I'm just not. But look, that's the way our world works. I'm so impressed by the Warriors, but I'm also so disappointed that this playoffs, what we thought was leading to this great clash of these Titans, is leading to a sweep.
It stunk all along, right? I mean, look, we're Wizards people here, so it didn't really stink because those games were competitive. They were interesting. In the end, you lose to Boston. In the end, it's coulda, woulda, shoulda, and we would have given LeBron a further run, and maybe somehow they could have taken LeBron to a 6-game or 7-game and maybe wound up sort of unwittingly in the finals. But, it's the NBA. The chalk holds. I mean, the chalk holds all the way along, other than last year when 73-9 didn't hold in Game 7. But, I'm pretty convinced last year if Curry didn't have the hiccup that it might have been a lot easier for them last year because they're the greatest team I've ever seen. And if there's anything you want to do to say, well, they're the greatest team I've ever seen, well, then spike the ball and come back and win 16 in a row in May and June. And they're 48 minutes away from doing that right now.
I'm torn because, like you said, this is the greatest team that I've ever seen and likely we will ever see, just in terms of how salary caps can match up and players taking less and Curry got hurt a few years ago, which allowed them to sign him to a smaller contract. I'm torn because I definitely know that people are going to ask me, what was it like to watch that team? And I'm going to be able to sit there and be like, I did. It was amazing. But at the same point, yeah, this entire year of NBA has felt like a waste. It really, really has. And it's disappointing. But I know that when I got grandkids, I'm going to put one of them on my lap and go, man, one time Durant went to the Warriors, and it was sick.
He is Adam Lefkoe, Lefkoe. You can find him out on Twitter as well as at Bleach Report. He also hosts a podcast called Sims and Lefkoe out of New York City and covers all things NBA, and there's a great follow out on Twitter as well for NBA-related stuff. So, for the Warriors and their likability or hateability, dude, I'm an old fart, right? So, I go back to the bad boys. I go back to you had to pick Magic or Bird. You had to pick Jabbar and Magic or Dr. J and Chocolate Thunder and I think Michael Jordan and that group, there was a point where they had jumped the shark and become unlikable. Hell, I remember when the Patriots were likable 15 years ago, But the Warriors are going to become the bad guys, I think, here. And much like LeBron taking his talents to Miami and buying a championship with Bosh and Wade down there and signing up for it, the Warriors will be accused of that. I don't know that they needed Durant to win this thing, right? I mean, it felt to me like they were plenty good enough last year, certainly were plenty good enough 2 years ago as well, but the Durant addition to this thing will give them a little bit of a black hat, even though I think it's hard to hate on the Warriors. I think it's hard to hate on Steve Kerr, and I think everything about the Warriors is kind of cool, so much so that I want to go buy one of those gold shirts.
I think you're right in terms of this. Steve Kerr on the likability factor, 10 out of 10. Steph Curry, 9 out of 10. Klay Thompson, 8 out of 10. He just doesn't do anything. He drinks a beer in a post-game locker room, and that's really it.
And buries threes, right.
Durant, yeah, exactly. Durant right now is at like a -5 on the likability scale. And I've always said that comments in the off-season are what leads to dislikability. So if in this off-season we start seeing a gloating Warriors team, a bragging Warriors team, a challenging Warriors team. But if they keep saying the quotes that I heard on Wednesday night where Steve Kerr said, Kevin's just having the time of his life, then they can really keep it up. Because, look, I'm going to compare this to hip-hop. There is a new wave of hip-hop stars, and NBA, basketball and hip-hop have always mirrored themselves. Like you were saying in the NBA, the Charles Barkleys, all those guys, they don't want these guys to be friends. It's the same thing with rappers. Back in the 90s, dude, come on, the 90s was East Coast, West Coast. All they wanted to do was fight each other. And now there's these movements of the Lil Yachty's, the Lil Uzi Verts, all these guys where they're all friends and they rap about having a great life and they wish each other well. And the older rappers hate it. They hate it. But look, everything can change if one of them decides to turn heel. And it's the same thing with the Warriors. If Draymond decides to get up there and start challenging everybody, they could become the true villain. We are perceiving them as the villain, but they need to accept the role as villain. That's what makes a great heel.
Well, even last year, Cleveland, look, LeBron's dislikable, patently dislikable for what happened going to Miami and the jerkitude around that. Then JR's running around. I don't think he put his shirt on all summer last year. There are plenty, and it's Cleveland. I'm from Baltimore, so there's I don't need to see them win twice. He was kind of cute last year, people hanging off of buildings and all that stuff. But you talk about good guys and bad guys and, black hats and white hats and baby faces and all that stuff. I think with Durant in this area specifically for Wizards fans, there's a dislikability just built into him because he was supposed to come back and rescue Wall and Beal, right? And chose to do this instead. If he would have come to Washington could have been in the finals against the Warriors. I think that's a legitimate thought that if he wanted to come home and play for Mom, he could have done that. He chose another direction. But I got to tell you, standing on the court with the square chick from ESPN interviewing him after the game, he had one of the great quotes. I rarely, Adam, take a quote and tweet it out, but I reached for my phone near midnight on Wednesday night. I've been working on that shot my whole life. I love that quad. Now, I don't think, dude, I've been doing this my whole life, 32 years. I don't think I've ever heard a player say that. I've been working on that shot my whole life. I thought that was awesome, and that made me like Durant even more, despite the fact that the Wizards are golfing right now.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you, to the people in your area, the people that wanted him to come home, I hope they can see past him not going home and playing there. I think
who wouldn't want to play for the Warriors, dude? Right? I mean, look at it. Anyone would want to sign up for that. It looks like fun, for crying out loud, and it looks like less pressure than playing in Cleveland or being a Knick or having to figure out how to get the 76ers better or whatever. It looks like going to San Antonio. Like, who wouldn't want to play for Popovich, right?
Exactly. And look, the people of Cleveland felt completely miffed when LeBron left them. How would he not want to be home? But then he won somewhere else and said, you know what? Now I'm ready to go. Maybe that'll be the case with Durant. Maybe after this one with the Warriors, the Wizards come calling, and now maybe it's time to go home. I just know this, that if you haven't won a championship and then you go home and you don't win a championship at home, like Carmelo, like if all that stuff, if he were to go to Baltimore or whatever, like it's the same thing. That pressure becomes even big because everywhere you go, every street you go down to, every barbershop, every restaurant, everyone is going, hey, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen, Kevin? When's it going to happen, Kevin? And look, we can say this as professionals too. I don't know where you're from. I have a lot of friends in the TV and radio business that went home and then after 2-3 years went, okay, I got to keep going because that drive is crazy. Everyone thinks you want to go home. Human beings are not always destined to go home. Sometimes we're destined to wander. So I really hope that the people in that area can give Kevin a little bit of reprieve and they can celebrate a local kid doing the big thing because maybe, if they treat him well, he could come back in a few years. I genuinely believe that.
He is Adam Lefkoe. He covers all things NBA as well as sports and hip-hop and music and videos and movies. And tell everybody what you do out at Bleacher Report and what you do with your podcast.
Absolutely. So I've been at Bleacher Report now for 4 years. I'm their main host of video when they started launching the app and all that stuff. We're based out of New York. I host a podcast with Chris Sims and Lefkoe. We do that on iTunes, so you can please subscribe. And we also do tons of Facebook Lives. And if you're into Philly sports, I do another podcast called Crossing Broadcast that's based down in Philly. We do that 3 times a week. That's available on iTunes as well.
Hey, dude, appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on and shedding a little NBA insight. We'll bang back at you toward NFL season. We'll have some fun here later on. We'll send everybody out to follow you at Bleacher Report as well as at Adam Lefkoe. That's Lefkoe. Thanks for being a great guest. Good having you on, man.
Hey, you're the man, dude. Have a good one.
You got it. Adam Lefkoe joining us here from New York City, talking some NBA on the backside of Game 3. It appears there will be a parade in the early part of the week next week in the Bay Area. And, hey, if the Warriors want to play around and take the thing home and win it in Game 5, I don't think they want to do that. I think they want 16 in a row. I think a parade would be better than a Game 5 out in the Bay Area for the early part of next week. Meanwhile, we got the Orioles in New York all weekend. The Yankees hosting the Birds, so we'll be monitoring that. Luke will be monitoring that as well at WNST.net. I'm very easy to find. I'm out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from wherever you are. It is bikini season. You want to get in shape without a lot of pressure. It's only $10 a month. It's Planet Fitness. It's there for you. They, of course, sponsor our morning newspaper delivered to your email doorstep at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's all powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Last but never least, any breaking news over the weekend comes to you first on the WNST text service. It's instantaneous, whether it's Decker or Macklin. Certainly the bad news of Pitt and Tavon Young last week. You get it all first. Breaking news. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis is here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. I, much like Mr. Angelos, who I've written a book about that I'll be releasing this summer called The Peter Principles out at WNST, chapters 1, 2, 3, 12, and 13 are already out online, but we'll be releasing that, and I am a very available individual. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.